But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. And it feels alright.
Welcome along to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith. It is the start of a new show, the Premier League show, and who would have thought that after his appearances on the Amigos, winding Keith Patterson up, that we would have Roger Melly as part of the NUFC Matters podcast team. But welcome to the podcast, Melly. Good to have you on, mate.
It's absolutely great to be on, Steve. Thanks for inviting us, mate.
It's great, mate. Honestly, people have enjoyed the banter, enjoyed the crack. I think you've restored people's faith in Manchester United fans, certainly. And I know that means you're from up here anyway, but you're Man United through and through. And I think people have enjoyed the banter, and it's good to have you on. And we decided really to do something a bit different because this channel is predominantly Newcastle United, but we are in the Premier League, and we can talk about football in general. There's always something crops up or something comes up in the game which we never really have time to dedicate to on this channel. And I thought you and I could probably chew the fat for an hour over certain things, and each week we can knock up various topics and conversation. And as we get onto a live show at some point, I know the people in the chat will be able to chuck some stuff in as well. So I knocked a little list together of stuff which is certainly going to provoke thought in the chat, but also you and I will have an opinion about it. And first one I wanted to discuss was the Saudi League. Obviously, we're seeing a lot of Premier League players going to the Saudi League now, and not just old players. This isn't like the MLS. This isn't like the Chinese league where they're signing people who are over the hill. Or you go back into the days of when Peter Beardsley went to Vancouver in the 80s, and he was playing alongside all those old greats like Pelé and the like George Best. This is a real attempt to create a very special league, which I guess the Saudis, because they don't like being second best, will hope in some way, shape or form could become the best league in the world. So the question I wanted to ask you, Melly, is do you think the Saudi League can be a threat to the Premier League moving forward?
I don't think so. I think the Premier League's always going to be the best league in the world. It would attract so many viewers over here. Like I said in the last show, when we play in the Champions League, we always have the highest audience members for whichever programs broadcasting it. It is a bit of a worry, but I think it's kind of gonna get rid of those who want to play for the badge and those who want to play for money. Somebody posted something today saying, "Will you be watching the Saudi League? It's now like it's getting 4 channels as well attached to it." And I said, only if Emmerdale's showing repeats, I'll watch it. But and now you touched on the subject there, like Steve, that it's not really the old ones that are gone, but predominantly it is. It's those that are coming at the end of their career and they want a big payday, like Henderson, Ronaldo. Sané isn't, that Wolves player Neves, he isn't, but the majority are. And the majority seem to be, apart from Henderson, those of all the same, I don't know how to say this, who follow the same kind of religion. They're kind of attracting, they're pulling all them players over, if they're Muslim. Or I think the only reason Henderson's gone over is because Steven Gerrard is the manager there and he's pulled him. I cannot see Europe's best, the likes of Kevin De Bruyne, etc., ever gone to that league until they get to the point where they're looking for money, they're looking for that retirement money. So we'll always, in the Premier League and the Bundesliga, they'll always attract, in the Little Liga, but that's fading, we'll always attract the best players who want to win stuff, who, they now, when they get to 35, they've still got 10 years to go in that league over there. Because, it isn't the best league. They haven't got the best players. So to answer your question, I don't think it'll ever be a problem for the Premier League. Definitely not.
I mean, money talks, doesn't it? That's the bottom. I mean, in fact, they say money doesn't talk, it swears. And I mean, you've just mentioned Henderson. I mean, you know, a lot of people up in arms in Liverpool, especially the LGBTQ plus groups, who, you know, felt that he'd completely betrayed them. You know, he'd spoken for them and took part in some of their events, and then suddenly he's across there. And we know the issues that the Saudi, the Saudi country has. And you know, I've often said on this show, purely in defense, of course, of the Newcastle takeover, that, you know, everyone should be given the opportunity to change. I mean, you know, hundreds of years ago, we were colonizing most of the world, and you know what I mean? God knows what we were getting up to with with other people, and we were given the opportunity by the world to change, and gradually, you know, country by country was handed back. We still, you know, we've still got colonies in some parts of the world. So my argument's always been in that respect, you know, you've got to give people an opportunity to change. So the Saudis, the Qataris, and whoever else should be given that opportunity. So
they're getting the opportunity. They've got the money to back it up as well, haven't they? So
yeah, exactly. And I think with Henderson and Gerrard, yeah, they've gone for the pound note. There's no doubt about it. I mean, I think that, you know, everything is pushing towards 2030, which is going to be a big year in Saudi. That's why they bought into the Premier League and bought Newcastle United. That's why they've basically, you know, taken over the golfing world. You know what I mean? They've made a huge foray into that. That's why they've staged some of the biggest boxing shows in the world, and will continue to stage big boxing fights across there. And now, you know, they're looking to create a football league. And I mean, they don't like to be second best in anything. So I don't think that it will be bigger than the Premier League. I agree with you. I genuinely don't think that will surpass and overtake the Premier League. And I agree with you, the Bundesliga. I think there'll be an interest in it. I think what will happen is, I think the culture in Saudi, you see lots of men, groups of men, that they'll book a villa, they'll go and play on FIFA for a weekend, and they'll sit and watch the Premier League. That's how they enjoy themselves, Melly. Do you know what I mean? Now they're going to have the opportunity. Those young men out there are going to have the opportunity to go and watch some of the best players in the world, and I think it'll appeal to them, won't it?
I think so, mate. I think if it helps change the culture and of Saudi and how they operate, you know, that can only be a good thing as well. And listen, don't get us wrong. Before Ronaldo went last year, nobody had heard of it. You know, he's obviously been given a hell of a package to take it over, because since he's gone, and you know, this season I was thinking, Jesus Christ, we're going to end up playing my under 21s here. If they're offering this kind of money, it is dangerous. You know, that, like you say, they don't like it being second best, and they're literally putting everything into it. Will I ever watch it? Nah, I didn't think I will. And that's being honest. I didn't think I'll ever watch it. I like the intensity of the Premier League. I like how it's all built up. And I will get onto the broadcasters because of the kickoff times and etc. etc. But you cannot beat the Premier League and how it's built up by Sky, and you know, like it's just absolutely fantastic. And then match day it's a pinnacle. You know, it's like what you've just said there. I personally still at this age get the hairs on the back of my neck when I see the players coming out, and it's fantastic. So for them to witness that, you know, that's great, and I wouldn't begrudge anybody of that. But getting back of it, it'll never be as big as the Premier League, unfortunately, ever.
I do laugh when me and you say hairs on the back of their neck, because that's the only places.
I tell you what it is. I wish the top grew as quick as the sides. I'm shaving this every other day.
All right, well, moving on from the Saudi League, let's talk about the transfer window. The transfer window, of course, is a rarely, you know, it's a recently new invention, you know, and you know, we've now got, you know, lots of activity. I mean, this is a pre-recorded show. I'm sure there's been a bit more activity as you know, we've recorded this on Thursday, and you know, we've heard, you know, the Harry Kane on-off saga, you know, probably going to reach its conclusion as we record this. We've got, you know, Paqueta potentially moving to Man City. We'll come on to that in a minute. But, you know, the transfer window is going to run till the 1st of September. And like you say, Sky make a big thing of the Premier League. You love the way they promote it, etc. Well, they make a huge thing of transfer deadline day. You know, I mean, literally, especially if you're a Newcastle fan, you'll have spent, many an hour sitting waiting for the inevitable to happen, which was nothing before the new owners came in. And you'd literally just see tumbleweed next to Keith Downey outside St James's Park. But, I've got to ask the question today. Do you think it's time to stop this, to stop the transfer window? Because back in the old days, you could buy a player and sell a player when you wanted to. Do you think the transfer window is a good idea? Do you enjoy the turmoil of that and the excitement of it and the countdown on the first? Are you going to be sitting on the 1st of September checking your phone and putting your TV on when you get back in after work?
I absolutely love it.
You love it.
I can see where you're coming from, but if you open that up, it would just be constant disruption in the clubs. This way, you've got the September the 1st to get your squad together. And after that, you're a unit. You're a unit till January. And then all the people can come back in and try and fish your players and stuff. But I say keep the transfer window 100%, mate. It's great. Like you say, Sky's got its own channel. You've got Sky Sports Transfer Centre, which is on all day, every day on the news channel. It's great. It's fantastic. We're just missing Harry Redknapp now.
Well, that's it. Yeah, Harry Redknapp used to be the highlight, didn't he?
He was brilliant.
It was always just the shot at the car window like that, and he's looking out and chatting away. There was a player as well. Do you remember that player that drove all the way to go and get transferred?
He sat outside. Who was he called again?
I can't even remember who that was, but that was absolutely hilarious.
He tells a story about that on his show,
Does he?
I'll try and get it and send you later on. It's brilliant.
Right. Okay. I mean, for me, the transfer window, I do enjoy it. But I know a lot of people don't. I think a lot of people would like to see it revert back to the way it was. But I agree. I think it gives a bit of discipline. And it levels out, doesn't it? I mean, you've got to get your business done. I mean, just looking at the transfer window at the minute. I mean, the carry on at Wolves where they've got rid of one manager and Gary O'Neill's come in. But I was just looking at what they had spent as to what they've recruited. I think they spent about £9 million in the window. They've brought two free transfers in, one which is a returning player, and they've sold about £89 million worth of talent. They've completely decimated their team. I mean, for them, the transfer window is not going to be long enough because there's no way in the world they're going to be able to do, that much business to get players back in. It can affect some, it can affect some clubs which aren't as well run. I guess that's the problem. It leads on to what I was saying about Paqueta. Again, with this being a time-sensitive show and us pre-recording this, things may have moved on, and Paqueta may now be a Manchester City player. Of course, he may not be, and he might still be at West Ham. But this whole potential transfers, we'll call it, because we're doing this on Thursday, I would say, is there any loyalty left in football, Melly? Because Paqueta's only gone to West Ham last season. He's got his feet under the table. West Ham were good enough to give him the opportunity to come and play in the Premier League. They put the money where their mouth was. If I'm right in saying this, I think Man City were originally in for them, and for whatever reason didn't follow it through. He went to West Ham, and I don't think he had the greatest of seasons. I think ultimately, he scored, was it 5 goals and 7 assists? I think he had, which for a midfielder is not great. He didn't settle straight away. It took a bit of time. Scored against Newcastle typically, but ultimately, I just think if he moves to Man City, I think that's a bit. I think that's just
naughty.
I think it's bad on him. I just think it doesn't. There's, it questions, is there any loyalty? Because he should be loyal to West Ham. He should be saying to West Ham, look, you put your money where your mouth was. I'll stay again. I'll stay another year. And, if he leaves, he puts West Ham, West Ham get dropped in it. They've then got to suddenly bring in another player, another 2 players. They've just lost Declan Rice to Arsenal. Then they've got to bring in another midfielder. I know they brought in Alvarez, but, they need to bring somebody else in. I know there is a couple, that they've been linked with. But is there any loyalty left in football, Melly?
No, the only loyalty, mate, is in the fans. There's no loyalty in players, managers, the fans and the backroom staff. You could even say, well, what happens if they've come through the ranks? The only way they stay at the club is if they get the right money that they think they deserve. If they've become so good, and the club then go to them and say, look, we'll give you 200 grand a week, they'll stay. Apart from that, there's no loyalty in football at all. I mean, look as far as Christian Eriksen. The guy literally died on the pitch, mate. He died on a football pitch, and Brentford give him that chance. Like nobody else would give him the chance. They give him the chance, and then Man United come sweeping in a year later, and he's gone. Like that sums up football players for you. They're overpaid, and this is just personally mine. I mean, like other people might have a different opinion, but they didn't care. They didn't care, like every now and again they might come and sign a little top or whatnot, but all they're bothered about is getting their money at the end of the week. You will have the ones that want to win, and that's like Paqueta, like he's at West Ham. Yes, they won the UEFA European, not the cup, the what's it called, the
Europa.
Aye, the win that, but he's looking at it and he's thinking, right, they're going to give us, 150 grand a year. They've just won the treble, potential Premier League winner. Like, he's looking at it and thinking, well, in 5 years' time, I've earned so much. I've probably won so much. I can put whatever price I want on. I'll get double what that's what they're thinking ultimately all the time. They're always thinking about their next big money move. None of them are thinking, I'm going to go and sign for Newcastle or Man United, and I'm going to stay there till I retire. None of them. You could ask them all, and if they were all honest with you, every one of them would be honest and tell you what I've just said. There's no loyalty at all apart from the fans. The fans are the only loyal thing left in football.
Good point. Yeah, I would agree. I don't think there's any loyalty when someone comes waving a check. And I think, we've seen it many, many times. Christian Eriksen is a good point. New PGMOL rules coming into play, Melly. Some interesting ones. Let's touch on a couple of them. A new technical area code of conduct and increased financial penalties for repeat offenders. Now, the Charity Shield at the weekend was the showcase event, which heralds the new dawn of the Premier League. We did see Arteta, cop for a card. In the Championship, we saw one of the managers sent off that out in a game that I watched. So, they are starting how they mean to go on. Do you agree with that rule, the technical area rule?
Yeah, because I think they've got a lot of influence on there. I think they need to, do what they need to do in the dressing room and then just let them play. It's, it's the same at every level. You come and watch the kids on, and you've got like 2 managers barking on and 10 parents barking on. You've already done what you're supposed to have done. You've done your management in the dressing room. Let the players play. Just let them play. They're at the highest level they can be at. If they're not understanding your instructions from 15 minutes earlier, there's something the matter, isn't there? So I agree. Stamp it out.
I think the problem is it filters down to the lower level, doesn't it? That's the problem. So when you see somebody like Arteta, gesticulating or Klopp berating one of the 4th officials and then pulling his hamstring,
absolutely,
that does follow down to the lower levels, doesn't it? And
100 million%, mate. I mean, we were training the other week with 6-year-old kids, and they're getting a free kick, and one of them went to lay behind the wall. You're thinking, Jesus, 6-year-old in the line behind the wall. So it does, like they look up to these people, they're heroes. And when they see them screaming on and this, that, and the t'other, of course they're going to do it themselves, aren't they? They're going to do it themselves because they think it's right. So I made stamp it out.
I think one of the big things which we will see, we've seen it in the Women's World Cup, and that's the crackdown on time wasting, which means that some games we're going to see ridiculous amounts of added time. Some
of your games you will.
Well, maybe.
You're pretty good at wasting time, aren't you?
Yeah, so Ten Hag says. But yeah, what's your views on this? Because again, one thing that gets crowds irate at the end of the game is when that board goes up and you see 6 minutes, 7 minutes, and then you've got everybody in the stadium going, well, where's he got that from? We need to point out for each substitution, it's 30 seconds. I think that's still the ruling. So if there's 6 substitutions, there is 3 minutes. So I think a lot of people fail to take that into consideration. People just think about that injury that happened down there where he was down for a minute and a half, and they go, well, it should only be a minute and a half. They forget the substitutions all add up. So, it is going to be, there is going to be some additional time. Again, is that a good rule change to clamp down on time wasters?
Absolutely. I believe it is, mate. I mean, it's only a problem if you're winning 1-0 and the pressure's on. You know, if you're 2 or 3-0 up, then it's not so much of a problem. But what it's stamping out is, I had to go at my own, one of our own defenders, Rafa Varane, put the statement out this week, and I saying we're going to be playing 100 minutes, 110 minutes. And I thought, well, what they're trying to do ultimately is not make you play more. They're just trying to stop all these foreign players, because let's be honest, the British didn't really do it. They're starting to do it, but it's more the foreign players who are rolling over, and if they think they can waste 3-4 minutes and only get 30 seconds out of it on at the end, they're doing it, and they're doing it more and more. And we've seen it a lot more last season, more and more of it. Any amount of times, there's times I've been able to run to the toilet and come back, and they're still lying on the floor, man. And that's what they're aiming to cut out.
I found Varane's message, actually, because I screenshotted it when you retweeted and you replied, and it said, "We had a meeting last week with the FA. They recommended from the referees new decisions and rules. From the managers and players, we've shared our concerns for many years now that there are too many games. The schedule is overcrowded, and it's at a dangerous level for players' physical and mental well-being. Despite our previous feedbacks, they have now recommended for next season longer games, more intensity, and less emotions to be shown by players. We want to be in good condition on the pitch to give 100% to our club and fans. Why are our opinions not being heard? As a player, I feel very privileged to do the job I love every day, but I feel these changes are damaging our game. We want to be at our maximum level, the best we can be, and put on amazing performances for our fans to celebrate every week. I believe it's important that we players and managers highlight these important issues, as we want to protect the game we love and give the fans our best."
Steve, are you telling me, as an athlete, and I mean the ultimate athlete, you cannot play 2 90-minute, 100-minute games a week?
I tell you what, I did a talking with Rob Lee the other week, and he was saying to me, he says, I hated training. He says, I'd rather play 7 games a week. He says, one of Rob Lee's pet hates is players saying things like that.
Do you know why, mate? Because we've created this such a spoiled society, through, it's probably because, and I'm getting deep, but we're parents who didn't have as good as an upbringing as what they wanted to give us. Ultimately, we've created this spoiled society where, to the point where these people are getting 200 grand a week. They're playing 1 game a week for the first 2 months. And then they've got to play 2, maybe 3 games in 9-10 days. And they're thinking this is being hard done to you. Like, how many people would swap places with this guy? You've got people in other parts of the world who've got to walk 10 miles for a drink of water and bring back barrels of water. And then you've got these spoiled gets saying, "Oh, we don't want to play for 100 minutes. How? Where?"
It's mental, isn't it?
It's mental, mate. It's absolutely crazy.
They don't live in the real world. That's the problem.
Nah. You know why? Because they've got everybody behind them saying, "You're the best. You're the best." Constantly. They can never put a foot wrong. They'll go home. They've had a cleaner there all day, cleaning the mansion. They jump in the car. It's full of diesel because the handyman's filled it full of diesel. They didn't do anything for themselves, man. They're getting paid absolute fortunes and still finding something to moan about. So they've done something about it, and they've said, look, stop rolling about the pitch and you'll play 93 minutes with your subs.
There's also going to be stadium bans and potential criminal prosecution for tragedy abuse. Now, this is interesting because this affects, it certainly affects games that your team plays in.
Definitely.
Because there are, especially games against Liverpool, I guess, where you both go hammer and tongs at each other about various things. We won't mention them on the show, but I think this is a very important, rule of brought in, and I just fear about how they're going to police it, Melly.
There's banter, mate, and then there's that. I was literally 5 meters away from the Liverpool fans last season, and we're having banter all game, and how they're going to police it, Steve, is because the away end is, there's a massive presence of police. So if they catch anybody, for instance, for us, it's quite easy for the Liverpool fans to be caught out because they would do a gesture with their arms out wide, but they're very vigilant, and they've got so many cameras up now, like they can zoom in any amount of times. You'll probably seen it yourself in the way end. You see somebody getting turfed out, that's because they've seen something on the camera. So, listen, you can have banter. It's football. At the end of the day, it's a game, mate. And we love our team, but ultimately, it's a game. Like City won the treble last year. Forgetting about it. It's done, it's dusted. But at the time, yes, it's heated, and it means everything they had to beat them. But does it really matter? Ultimately, does it really matter?
Yeah.
To the point where you're gonna say something about people dying, or nah, mate. That's the quicker that's out, the better for me. Like,
yeah, I agree, mate, as well. Are we going to see the return of the hard man this year, then? Because there's leniency on physical challenges. And I'll read you the directive. On the pitch, as an attempt to allow the game to flow better and reduce stoppages, a higher threshold will be applied to contact between players, meaning there should be fewer free kicks awarded for incidents which last season might well have been penalised for being overly physical. However, as per the existing referee guidelines, any challenge deemed careless will be deemed a foul, and any which are reckless will receive a yellow card, and any player who endangers the safety of an opponent will be sent off. I mean, open to interpretation. Again, that's the problem with things like this. But I guess it's going to make the game flow if they're going to be slightly lenient. I mean, Man United haven't been in the Championship for a while, but Newcastle have been in a couple of times in recent decades. I'm not being funny. The Championship follows this guideline anyway. You can kick people up a height and do what the hell you want, and the referee just lets it go. But it's going to be a change, this, in the Premier League, isn't it?
I was going to say, it depends what league you play in. The Premier League's pretty fluid anyway. I think, like, when it comes to gameplay, like when they're transitioning the teams and stuff, most of your fouls are coming in the centre of the park. Bring it on, mate. Like, bring it on. Absolutely. It's I love the days of Roy Keane and Vinnie Jones, Shearer. Like getting in amongst it. It just makes it all more interesting, doesn't it? I mean, I need 2-footed challenges up the knees and stuff, but these 50-50s where they're gone in and then the referee blows in favour of one. If they're saying that's gonna be like play on, then mate, I'm all for it. Like, absolutely.
Yeah, I would like
and
to
stops
see
them rolling about again. It gets back to the case that we've just made, about if they know that they're going to get challenged, because majority of them, they'll push you to a challenge to get the free kick and lie on the floor for 3 minutes. Whereas if they're both going in 50-50, none fine well that, look, if I push you, I'm not going to get the free kick, and then if I lie on the floor, we're going to be playing longer. They're both just going to go at it, aren't they? They're both just going to go for it, and it's going to create a better game ultimately.
Yeah, it is. Okay, we're halfway through the show. Time for the ads. A big thanks to all our sponsors, Skips and Bins. You can find them at skipsandbins.com or telephone 0800 25 45 25 3. Email inquiries at skipsandbins.com. Website skipsandbins.com. Easy contract free and pay-as-you-go waste collection. Big thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces Handmade in Cumbria. You can order them from their website, mrvickys.co.uk, or by telephoning 01768 210 102. A big thanks also to New Workwear. You can find them at newworkwear.com. They're an agile and dedicated workwear provider. Welcome back as well to United Travel. They are a UK coaches firm, and they are based in the Northeast. They've got 2024 tours, and you can contact them on 01670 632 460 or mobile 0791 666 4174. Email info@unitedgrouptravel.com, and they've got a website which is unitedgrouptravel.com. There's no strangers on their tours, just people you haven't met yet. Big thanks to them for their sponsorship. Big thanks as well to Media Arts, and they supply all the video technology. If you want to become a member and get a cup, a pen, a membership card, and a scarf, then get your smartphone and put it over this QR code. It will take you straight to the membership pack. It's a £25 one-off fee. You can also go to NUFC Matters website and search membership pack to book today. If you want to help the channel, then subscribe to it by hitting the subscribe button. Hit the thumb up under the video to like the video, and click share to share to your other social media. We're also available as a podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and other podcast providers. Don't forget, we help the food bank on this channel. If you want to do so virtually, go to nufcfansfoodbank.co.uk and make a donation today. The Alan Shearer raffle is back on. 150 tickets, £1 a ticket. Win a limited edition signed Alan Shearer ball. Enter today at nufcmatters.com. Okay, Melly, second half of the show. I'm going to mention the Carabao Cup. Don't start gloating about that win at Wembley. But the Carabao Cup, is it fashionable anymore? Is it time to scrap it? It's been the Carabao Cup. It's been the Milk Cup. It's been everything and anything. The League Cup, it seems to have lost its romance. And I mean, looking at the games that were played in that second round, the other night, was it the second round or was it the first round? First round. So in the first round the other night, just looking around the grounds as I watched Sky and looked at the coverage, the grounds were empty. There was nobody there. Some of those places will have been paying to have that game on, because they didn't have TV coverage, and it must be costing people a fortune. And even when it gets to the later stages of the cup competition, Premier League teams, especially those who are playing in Europe, which of course will be Newcastle this year, won't be playing their first choice. Most teams don't. Man City tend to play a reserve team and get, with the exception of last year, get to the final nearly every other year and win it. Has it lost its romance, or did that cup win? I know it was against Newcastle, but park that. Was it a big thing for you, Melly, the Carabao Cup?
No, it wasn't, mate. And you got to ask yourself, would it be missed if it left? If it was gone? Nah, it probably wouldn't be missed. Not by us lot anyway. Not by the people in the top half of the Premier League. But the League Cup's probably the only cup where the lower teams get the chance to actually progress to a good stage and then potentially maybe get a good team down to their ground, and yeah, the stadiums were empty to begin with, but if they get that at a later stage, if they manage to get through and they get a big team there, and even if it's not the first 11, they're still selling out, and it'll probably see them all right for the year. So you've got to try and think of the little team, because the FA Cup, all the big teams play the main players, but the League Cup, like you say, they tend to put out the second string or the young ones coming through and stuff until they get to a position like we did, and we were both full strength, or maybe it's the quarters and the semis. But even if Man United say, gone to Wrexham or Newcastle get the Gateshead, do you know what I mean? The stadium would be full and they'd make enough money off that one game to last them the whole season. So I don't know, it wouldn't be missed by us lot at the top end of the table, but I think it would be missed by a lot more.
I mean, I've got to be honest, for a Newcastle fan, to get to the Carabao Cup final last year was a big success. It was, it was great, and we wanted to win it. We just unfortunately hit that bad patch.
Blip of form, didn't you?
We lost Nick Pope, and then we didn't perform on the day. The big game was the semi-final, as usual. It was a wonderful two-legged semi-final. We'll win it at home. The local lad gets the goal to get you through, and it's it was a great night. But for us, I think we would benefit, because obviously we need to get that trophy monkey off our back. We need to. What Newcastle need to do is they need to win a silver pot, and that is the one to try and win, because ultimately it's not the one that everyone else is focused on. Ultimately when they get to the later rounds, your Man Cities, your Man Uniteds, your Liverpools, whatever, will want to win it. But ultimately for Newcastle, that's got to still be the focus. I think a good run in the Champions League, maintain your top four like we discussed the other week, but have a run in the Carabao Cup, give it a go. So I personally wouldn't like to see it scrapped. I think maybe there should be a little bit more thought goes into it. I don't know, maybe just try and make it a bit more exciting, or make it so that it's available for people, because ticket prices seem to be too high, and make it fan affordable. Make it a lot of these teams don't do that. Newcastle have tried it over the years, but just make it cost effective for people to go, and I don't know, just up the prize money, do something to it, give it a bit of razzmatazz. But at the moment, I just feel like it's dying on its backside. And just looking at the, it's certainly at the lower levels, I don't think people see the attraction of it at all.
Nah, I think you're right. Like, but I think they do try and I think United's only a tenner for kids and 15, 20 quid for adults for the Carabao Cup.
Yeah.
I'm sure Sunderland is as well, a £5 and a tenner.
No bugger
Maybe
there.
that'll change.
There was
Maybe
nobody
that'll
there.
change. Eh?
There was nobody there. I mean,
I think looking at the stadium, mate, I think they've made the executive decision just to play one stand and just keep the others empty. They didn't have enough to fill it. Whereas if you've got to staff them areas, then that's where your money comes in, So I think they treated it like they were playing away, and allowed 10,000 or something in, and just kept it at that. But yeah, it's not good. But it's the first round, you know what I mean? Once we get to the 4th, 5th round, then you'll see full stadiums and people trying. I'm out for football, me. Like, I think you should have as much as you can during the season. It's what keeps everybody upbeat, gives you something to talk about on the street. So, the more the merrier for me.
TV documentaries, Melly. Newcastle's Amazon series is now out there, and people have had a chance to watch it and digest it and see it. There's a Burnley one which I've just started watching, which is Sky Documentaries, and I've managed to watch the first episode of that, which of course was the new owners announcing that they'd taken over, and then the relegation. So I've got to catch up with the rest of that. But what's your thoughts on these kind of TV fly on the wall documentaries? I mean, the first one that I remember watching, of the recent batch was, of course, Sunderland Till I Die. Sunderland had done it before when Peter Reid was manager. They had cameras in the dressing room, and that was enough to make your hair curl. That some of the language used in that one. But there's been predecessors to this, but there is a new batch, and of course, Amazon specialise in them. They've done the one with Arsenal, they've done one with Spurs, etc., etc. So Man City. There's been so many. And do you enjoy them? Do you like watching them? Do you think we'll learn anything from them?
I personally, I do like watching them because it gives you the insight of what goes on inside the club, because as a fan, you're very much on the outside. The distance between fan and the inside of the clubs, it's never been further. So this shows you how that they're just normal, really, aren't they? They're just normal human beings. That the one with Jose Mourinho and Dele Alli, which has become more famous now because of what Dele's interview, but he was basically saying you're lazy. As fans, you sit in the pub and you speak about how the game's gone and stuff, and in reality, they're speaking about it in there as well, So I love it, me personally. It makes you feel like you're part of it, doesn't it? I'm looking forward to watching the Newcastle one. I like the little clip that they put out. It had to be about Man United, didn't it, and beating them. I thought we're here to the door and never ignored us. That's gonna get your viewings up straight away.
Did you see the Manchester United podcaster who came out and he was having a right pop at Eddie Howe saying, well, you had that rant. Was it a Man United podcaster? I think it was. He had a rant about Eddie Howe saying, well, what use was it? He had to go at you before the Carabao Cup final. He says, and you waited until the league game. That shows what kind of man you are. But I mean, at the end of the day, as you said, it's about getting the views, isn't it? It's about pushing it, and that's why that particular speech where he said, "This is what they want. Well, this is what they'll get," and then obviously we went out to beat you that day. So it was good. It was a motivational speech, which I'm sure Eddie will have been quite proud of.
It's good, and what it does is it connects the fans, mate. Because when you're sitting, you've been for your coffee or your pint at half time, and you come back to your seat. It gives them something to talk about, especially if they're going to watch this before the season starts. They'll be like, I wonder what he's saying in there. It's something else to talk about. It's a different dimension, isn't it? It's great, mate. I love it. I love all this TV stuff that they're doing now, and I tend to watch nearly everyone that comes out. I did see that Burnley one as well. Is it Rise to Burnley or something like that?
That's it, yeah, right, yeah.
Yeah. So I'll give that a watch as well. It's great. It's interesting, and it's showing you the inside of the club. Sometimes what you love or others, So
I think what I found interesting with like the All or Nothing series, especially when the Premier League stuff, when Newcastle were playing these teams, was the state of Newcastle's away dressing room. When people come, like, you know, you see the Arsenal one, because they did 8 episodes, you more or less see the internals of every away dressing room, and some of them are terrible. But I thought Newcastle's was the worst. And of course, those of you who, you know, watch the show know I've mentioned it before, but that away dressing room, of course, used to be Newcastle's home dressing room. So, you know, the home players used to change in there.
Jesus.
It's small. It's very claustrophobic.
It's all mind games, isn't it?
Of course it is, yeah. And that's to get at the team who comes to play, isn't it? And of course, like, making them as uncomfortable as possible, isn't it?
I've been in AC Milan's and Inter Milan's, you know, like theirs is absolutely top draw, you know. And then they take you to the dressing room for the weigh-in, mate. I've seen it. It's like being back in like PE, you know, like back in middle school.
Yeah,
that's what it was like. It was like 12 clothes hangers, you know. And I thought, wow, that's so clever.
Yeah,
so clever, you know, like. Just but like does it do them any good? I don't know.
It's like the Grey and Chill dressing room. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. All right, look, Premier League season, Melly, kicked off this weekend. There's, you know, the teams. Let's just refresh your memory. We'll go in alphabetical order: Arsenal, Aston Villa, Bournemouth, Brentford, Brighton, Burnley, Chelsea, Crystal Palace, Everton, Fulham, Liverpool, Luton Town, Manchester City, Manchester United, Newcastle United, Nottingham Forest, Sheffield United, Tottenham, West Ham United, and Wolverhampton Wanderers complete the set. So let's talk top of the table first, Melly.
I think
interestingness.
I think a lot of people are putting. I'm sorry, Steve. I keep doing that. I put it on Do Not Disturb, and it just keeps coming in, ringing. I don't know why it's doing it. Top of the table, mate. I think a lot of people are pushing for Chelsea, Liverpool, Tottenham to be in there. I've had a little bit of a change of heart, and I think Liverpool might do okay, but I think I don't know. I would like to see Newcastle back up there. You know, there's no doubt about them, my local club, but I think it'll be Arsenal, City, United, Newcastle, Villa, Liverpool, top 6.
Wow. Have you been surprised that the pundits have put Newcastle outside the top 6?
No, because, mate, you know, like, even as you know, as an actor, the North doesn't exist past Manchester.
True.
It doesn't, you know, like, it's the forgotten land up here. So I'm not surprised by it, but I think they'll be surprised come the end of the season, because ultimately I think it's your first season in the Champions League. You know, you're going to get your games, your group games, but I think you'll get out of that early, which will allow you to focus on the Premier League again and maybe a cup run, which is what you want. You know, you want to stay in the Champions League next year, don't you?
Yeah. Yeah, you want to finish fourth. Newcastle want to finish fourth, third or fourth. You know, it'd be great if we could finish, you know, higher. But, you know, third or fourth, great. Get back in the Champions League and you know, have a couple of good cup runs. You know, that is got to be you've got to keep the momentum going. He's created a bit of a problem for himself, Eddie Howe, by finishing so high last season, because the owners will expect.
I think so, mate. But I think he's done the right thing, and he hasn't gone out and like bought superstars. He's bought people who are going to complement your team, whereas you're going to make a change. Last year, you were making a change and you were bringing weaker on. This year, I think you'll be able to make a change and you'll be able to stay as strong. Whether or not, you know, if you get a few injuries, well, that'll change again. Could you do them with a few more? Potentially, yes, I think so. But he's just making steady waves. What he's done is mainly he's steadied your ship, and he's got the belief back in there. So that, you know, that you kind of put a price on that kind of stuff, because you could have had manager after manager, like City did. They had Hughes, Mancini, you know, like they had quite a few. What's he called him with the long hair? They've all come in, and then eventually Pep Guardiola's come in, and he steadied the ship. You got that straight away with Eddie Howe. You know, so it's a massive bonus. I think if you can you've got a few players, maybe 1 or 2 more would do this window. And then again in January, see how yous have gone. Bring a couple of more Premier League proven in. Then next summer, once you've gotten the revenue from what you've done this year, you know, that I Seller Cup, I think it was worth so many million, wasn't it? It was,
Yeah.
you know, all that counts. You know, it all counts towards your FFP, doesn't it? So, like, very clever on what they're doing.
What Newcastle will do, Melly, what Newcastle will do is when the 1st of September comes and that transfer window shuts, closed, Newcastle put money on it, will announce training kit sponsor. We've got no sponsor on my training kit. They'll announce a sponsor for the grass cutters. You know, you name it. There'll be some kind of sponsorship comes in. That'll give us enough ammunition for January if we need it. Or, you know, we will obviously increase our personnel in January. There's no doubt about that. But I think that'll be what they do. I think, and as you say, the Seller Cup brought money in. The Amazon program will bring things in, and I guess it's cute accounting which will happen. You know, the accountancy behind the scenes. That's what eventually helps your FFP, isn't it, Melly?
Oh, massively, mate. And like I said to you on the last show, you know, these aren't donkeys you're dealing with. They're multi-billionaires who've like been scrutinized at the top level. They know exactly what they're doing. So this window was always going to be about bringing in players who can, where you can. So your problem at the minute is Barnes and Gordon, isn't it? It's who do you play, Barnes or Gordon? Do you play them both? Who's got, you know? But one gets dropped and one sticks. So halfway through a game, Barnes isn't having a very good game. You bring Gordon on, who's just as good. Last season, they disrespect any players, but you know, what you were bringing on was leaving you vulnerable, and you end up getting a lot of draws. That's where your problem lay, was your draws. You know, it was, if you could have turned your draws into home wins, you would have had a much better season. You know, so I think Newcastle will definitely finish in the top 4 next year, because I think, unfortunately, you will go out of the Champions League in, I don't know, will it be the group stage or will it be the first knockout? I don't know, but it's just going to be a lot for you to take in, mate. You know, like playing. It's like the Carabao Cup. You know, you want about the Carabao Cup there. Yes, you lost the final, but what you gained was a lot of experience, and you gained a loss as well. And it's horrible to lose, especially when you're a professional. So if you get to the final this year, you can guarantee your bottom dollar that 90% chance you'll probably win. It doesn't matter who it's against, but you'll play a lot better than you did last year. So it's just about you gaining experience all the time. So get a good cup run, finish in the top 4, but I think so you get the Champions League next year, few bigger players next season, adding in January. And yeah, honestly, it's, you know, your sky's your limit. You know that. You all know this. You know, like you're like a little sleeping giant. So pains us to say it, honestly. I got such a pain in my heart. Can you remember when you used to get a pea in your heart there? When you were younger, when your dad used to shoot at you, you used to get a little pea.
Let's talk about.
Honestly, I mean it. I do mean it. You know, I hope you have success. It's not against us in any final. So.
Let's talk about the bottom end of the table, mate. There's a couple of perennial relegation battlers who Newcastle used to do business with. Take your pick, mate. I mean, Luton Town have got to be favourites to go back down. You know, I mean, you know, they're coming up with, you know, a substandard ground and you know, very little in way of support because of the size of the ground. But they'll have a fighting chance like everybody else. Nottingham Forest, of course, pulled off a pretty impressive escape last season. Burnley coming back up, different manager. We were talking about the documentary there. Everton have been playing Russian roulette in recent years. We know that they've got a big FFP issue, which will be decided in October. Is that going to affect them? Crystal Palace flirted with relegation in the past, but always seem to finish in the mid-table. But they've lost Wilfried Zaha now, who's been a bit of a talisman for them. Wolves. A club that's got rid of its manager, before a ball's even been kicked, and also got rid of half the players that have served them so well in recent seasons and not brought any in. And Sheffield United, another team that's been, I couldn't say a yo-yo club, but they have been up and down over the years. And again, got to be favourites. So who's your 3 to go down this year, Melly?
I'm going to go for, unfortunately, Luton, Sheffield United, and Wolves.
Wolves, yeah.
I just think they've had that run, and what's happened in the summer. You've got that money. Even if they were to reinvest it, are you going to get the same kind of talent back in for that kind of money? No, you're not. You're not going to attract them. It's gonna be a hard season for them. I know they brought that young manager in Gary, but nah, I can see Wolves going down, mate. And Luton, obviously, I think they'll go down. They'll struggle, and it's awful to say that, because you just expect it. They might turn out, to be a Brentford. You never know, But getting back to Burnley, I think they'll finish in the top 10. I think Vincent Company's got them playing well, and Turf Moor is a good ground to go into. They do well there normally. I think they'll do all right, but ultimately, I think it'll come down to Everton. Will do all right, mate. I cannot see them finishing like they did last season. I like Dyche. I like what he's about, and they've got some good players. They can play football when they turn up. So I'll rule Everton and Burnley out. Crystal Palace, good old Roy. He just seems to do it, doesn't he, every time? But they'll be floating around the bottom. They'll definitely be floating around the bottom. I think they haven't got like you say, they haven't got Zaha anymore. I mean, they have got a few players, but when their backs are against the wall, they drop. I've never seen them ever be 2 or 3-0 down. I mean, mistake us if I'm wrong, and never come back and get a draw. So losing Zaha, who was their talisman, it'll be a massive, massive loss for them. But my bottom 3 is Luton, Sheffield United, and Wolves. What about you? What are you going to go for?
I've got to be honest. I do agree with you on Luton and Sheffield United. I am going to go Everton this time. I think they're going to spiral into a bit of a problem here. Dyche has got relegation on his CV. Really, he got sacked at Burnley, but he more or less took them down. He'll claim that that's not his fault, but there was only 8 games to go. I think that behind the scenes at Everton, it's going to cause problems, and I think they'll get hit hard in October. I think they'll get made an example of, and I think they could end up with a points deduction. So it may not be because of how they play this season. It could be because they're given a mission impossible. Even a 10-point deduction, and they get off to a bad start, and suddenly, the world caves in, and people, we know what people are like, jumping ship. I don't think they've done great business in the window. I'm going to say that's my bottom 3, but Everton instead of Wolves. I think Wolves could be there or thereabouts, but it could go right to the wire at the bottom of the table as well. Last thing, Women's World Cup. Have you been watching it? And if you have, what have you made of it?
No, I'll be honest. I haven't been watching it because it's the Women's World Cup. I haven't been watching it because it lands mainly on when I'm at work, So I was doing a measure the other day for somebody, and luckily enough, it was the penalties for England against Nigeria at the time I was measuring. So I watched that. I probably watched a couple at the beginning. So I wouldn't really like to pass comment, but always, with the USA gone out, I think England's got to be favourites, haven't they? Unless you can tell me that somebody's been playing a lot better. Yeah, I heard that they weren't playing very well, to be fair.
England haven't played well, but they're carrying the luck. And, obviously this programme will have gone out after the quarterfinal against Colombia. We'll hope they've got through. But, they might just carry that luck, and you never know. That's what you need sometimes in these tournaments, whether it's men's football or women's football. But either way, it's been interesting. I've got to be honest. I've been very interested in the time added on, which has been absolutely crazy.
Has it?
And the VAR has been horrendous. Honestly, the VAR decisions have been awful at times, and just taken so long. But then, obviously, I just think they've been controversial for the sake of being controversial. And again, it spoils a good game of football. But it seems to be a success.
What would you do with VAR in general, Steve?
Generally,
would you scrap it?
Generally, I would say it just needs to be changed. They need to get it working properly. They should have done it. They should have launched it properly. What you need, I think, what would solve it is for people in stadiums to hear what is said. If we're going to stick with it, then let's hear what they're saying, because the frustration at places like St James's Park, is that we don't know what the hell is going on. And because we only got one screen, which is in the away end of the ground, and only certain people can see it. We don't know whether there's a VAR decision. It comes up on the screen. Then it says, then the stadium announcer gets it. He gets it late. He puts it out, checking possible VAR decision for whatever. Not everybody knows what's going on. But if we had communication and we could hear what the referee is saying and what the VAR people are saying, we could that would probably make it a lot better. But at the moment, you know, the rules impact as well. The rules aren't clear. We've brought in new PGMOL rules today. You know, we've mentioned that today, and you know, I don't think some of the directives are clear, and I think it's open to interpretation, and that's what causes some of these problems.
I think like they're gonna have to get quicker on there because of adding all this time on that's been wasted. You've seen yourself as many a time it's been nearly 3-4 minutes that they took to do a VAR decision. That's got to get quicker this year. They've got to be more. They've got to be more prompt when making a decision. And like you say, I'm sure I seen something earlier on. It was either in a division lower or maybe it's in a foreign league where they allowed you to hear what was being said between the two, and it makes all the difference. You know, when I was watching it and you could hear it, it made all the difference. Like you thought, all right, I get it, I get it. How they would manage to do that to the match going fans, I don't know, because that could cause absolute haywire, couldn't it? If they released it to the whole stadium. It could cause
but they need to change something, mate. They
need to change it, like, definitely. I agree with it. I think it helps the game, but it needs to be better ran, definitely.
Well, Melly, that's been a great hour. We've come to the end of the Premier League show, so thank you for joining us, mate. Follow Melly at Roger Melly on Twitter, and we will be back with another Premier League show soon. Take care, Melly. Thanks very much.
Champion, and you and everybody, take care. Thank you.
We still do 7 NUFC Matters show a week for free. But if you want to help support NUFC Matters, then there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast and video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications bell so you don't miss a single show. If you want to help us financially, then you can join the channel using this button with the membership starting at $1.99 a month. Or you can drop us a donation in the chat using a super sticker. We're also looking for sponsors. If you'd like your brand advertised on the flyers for the show and featured during the ad break, then email John at nufcmatters.com to arrange today.